Right now, I'm live in Norman, Oklahoma, just a little bit down from where that bridge over Main Street was washed out from flash flooding just a few nights ago. Those same complexes of storms dumped several inches of rain over southwest Oklahoma City, with the rainiest day in August ever recorded at the Will Rogers Airport. That created substantial flash flooding. There were water rescues, feet of water across major intersections in Oklahoma City, with motorists trapped in those floodwaters, and it looks like a severe weather threat is going to return to the Oklahoma City metro again this evening, and I'll likely be targeting up into Kansas initially. That's where storms should fire. The upper level storm system is centered over Omaha area or eastern Nebraska this morning, and it looks like a jet streak will rotate around the western side of this storm system, and that's going to create the deep layer shear necessary for severe storms and even supercell storms initially that should develop in a west to east line across central Kansas, and then those storms will dive off to the southeast with mainly a damaging wind threat, possibly large hail as well, and especially flash flooding later on as these storms collide into a complex of storms that will head south and impact areas like Wichita and Oklahoma City. Some of the high resolution models are showing a couple separate complexes of storms. The first one developing off to the north in Kansas, and then the other one coming in from western Oklahoma into central Oklahoma, and those two could easily collide. So, my plan of attack to chase this system is to head north. I'll be targeting central Kansas first to watch those supercell storms, initial storms develop, and those will likely have mainly damaging wind and a hail threat, but there is a chance for an isolated tornado or two, especially with those storms that can interact with boundaries. But there are some limitations for a more widespread tornado threat. The winds in the low levels of the atmosphere are going to be relatively weak. You're not going to have that very strong low level jet cranking just above the ground at 30 or 40 knots. But with these storms turning off to the southeast and moving into that flow, it's almost like during these northwesterly flow events, these storms that dive off to the right can create their own low level wind shear. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a tornado or two later on today, somewhere across central Kansas, maybe into Oklahoma, even central Oklahoma, possibly. But overall, the low level shear is a bit marginal. But anytime you have the jet stream come this far south, this early in the warm season, it usually spells severe weather. Normally, this time of year, the jet stream's way off to the north in Canada, but now with these storm systems taking a further south track across the central, even southern plains, bringing that wind off to the south over top the August heat and moisture that you have out here with dew points around 70. Temperatures are very warm as well. It feels very warm and tropical out here this morning in Norman. So I think that there is going to be quite substantial severe weather later on today, and especially the flash flood potential around here in Oklahoma City with several inches of rain just a few nights ago. Looks like there's a chance for a repeat of what happened, especially if these storms start to cluster over the Oklahoma City area. And further south here in Oklahoma, the upper level winds are even weaker. And so those storms will be moving slower, clustering together a bit more, dumping their rain cores. And so there's a really good chance there's going to be flash flooding later on today. If there are tornadoes, I'll definitely get close to them later on today. I will try to stream them live also, and I'll try to vlog a little bit more throughout the chase today as I'm going through and in between my live reports on AccuWeather. I'll try to go live throughout the storm chase, beginning with when the storms are developing, and then when they mature and go severe, then cluster together. I'll also try to cover that flash flood threat and also explain some of the storm structure out there, some of the forecast processes that we use as these storms develop, and how to pick the ones that have the best chance of producing those tornadoes. But I think that today the main threat is going to be damaging wind and hail initially, and then transitioning to that flash flood potential later on as storms cluster together. One of my friends, storm chaser Blake Brown, yesterday got a debris flow in the Texas Panhandle to the northwest of the Plainview area. So that was a pretty intense flash flood after 6 to 7 inches of rain in the northwest Texas Panhandle, created that debris flow and then closed some roads. There was flooding going over the roads as well out there. So I will be targeting more flash floods across the southern plains, even though it's much needed rain. When you get the rainfall rates of over 3 inches over a 3 hour period or greater, or even more in a 1 hour period, that's when you get the flash flooding out here, even though the rainfall is much needed overall across the southern plains. So I'll be updating here in a few hours, probably by mid-afternoon once those storms begin to fire initially in central Kansas and then possibly another cluster of storms coming in from western Oklahoma. So definitely stay tuned to those watches and warnings across the southern plains.